This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president of Palamina, Mr. Andrew Thomson. Andrew, it's been a bit. How have you been?
Great, great. Other than sitting at home and probably eating one or two donuts too many, I'm doing well.
Well, listen, it sounds like you're also discovering more gold, the most recent release, and you've had a couple recently that I want to get into, but the most recent headline reads Palamina channel sampling returns 14.2 grams per ton gold over 1.5 meters at the Kawasa Gold Project. This is now the eighth gold bearing structure at the Veta zone. And there's a lot of nuggets, pun intended, buried in this release that I absolutely want to get into. I want to start first by letting you provide an overview of the release, and then let's get into some of those nuggets that I mentioned.
Yeah, the key here is that initially when we started on this property, we were doing more chip sampling, and then we moved everything quickly to a minimum meter sampling over meter widths, and we're still getting good grade. And so we're in the process of permitting the Veta zone for drilling. We're right at the end of that process, and we wanted to investigate. We're seeing a lot of there's an intrusive that comes out right next to the two main zones, Veta and Cayos. Cayos being the new discovery zone, but we hadn't done a lot of work to the northeast, and so we actually kind of worked around the intrusive, and we found a new zone, which we're calling the Veta Northeast Zone. It's 500 meters along strike, so it increases the mineralized strike length from the Cayos zone to the southwest end to the northeast end of Veta to 2 kilometers. So we're now starting to see a relatively significant, it was already significant, but it's more significant. There's still a fair amount of work to do. This is really just an initial program, but in the Veta zone, where we're permitted to build 40 drill pads and just waiting our initiation of activities, the meter of 14 grams, that's in the northeast end, and we've got a much better understanding of there's different structures within that zone we're planning to drill, and we're in the process. We have 4 pads built now, and we're just at the point now where we're still doing surface work to try and understand the breadth of those structures. And so it's quite encouraging that we got those results. And then the results that are 500 meters northeast, again, they're in the 2-gram range, but the key is that they're sort of centered. All the mineralization is centered around this big intrusive that comes up through the Ananea rock. So we're starting to build a model around that, where we've always felt there was an intrusive related potential for an intrusive related gold deposit, but it's starting to bear that out.
You joked about being home, but obviously you've been busy. You've raised some cash, you've closed on some deals, you've advanced the property, and you mentioned waiting to be able to get in there with the drill. Can we go over the cash position and what that looks like right now? Because again, you've been active. It's just not the most visible of times, given the situation in Peru, and we can talk about that a bit in a second.
Yeah, well, currently the company in cash and equity has about 1.3 million. We have a big shareholding, 18.6% of Windshear Gold. In terms of recent financings, we did the 1.1 million into Palamina, and then Windshear, again, which we have 2 board seats and are a fairly large shareholder. I'm also the largest individual shareholder. We did 1.35 million, then we closed on another 500,000 on the warrants. So that company's well financed, and they're moving forward rapidly. So, at the end of the day, there's 2. If you're buying a Palamina share, you get that equity participation, a royalty. They also paid us a $25,000 U.S. advance royalty payment last month. There's annual royalty payments that scale every year. So, from a really macro perspective, there's likely going to be 2 drill programs, one on our flagship property Kawasa and one on Windshear's Gaban project, and we're back to work, so we're pretty active in the field right now.
Let's talk COVID and Peru in the age of COVID. You mentioned that you're back to work. What does that look like right now, and what can we expect moving forward for Palamina?
Well, my interpretation is that we're just getting out of winter. And Peru is, call it 9 months behind China, 6 months behind North America. So, it's a bit like the end of May or the beginning of May for North America. As they come out of winter, things are going to get easier, I think. And I think the good news is that they may not get a second wave based on the fact that they're they've actually had quite a few people contract the disease, and so they're building immunity. But more importantly, whether it's a vaccine or they're taking steroids with blood thinners, it's a lot like, everybody has a solution to be able to survive it. And I think that Peru and South America's been pretty hard, but I think when they come out of it, they're less likely to have a second wave than the balance of North America.
Well, that bodes well for seeing drilling activities, whether that happens in the next several months or it happens in 2021. I'd love your thoughts on that front.
Well, where we're at, we received our DIA, which is our impact environmental study, approved last December, and the timing of it was good for a May drill program. It usually takes less time to have, post the DIA, there's an initiation of activities. One of the things that is a bit of a problem for us is Puno, the province we're in, isn't as sophisticated in terms of registering things like land title. So there was, of 6 maps, there was a community map that we're drilling on private ground, but we needed to register it, and it never showed up in Lima. So we actually, at the end of January, had to go through the process of not only convincing the community to register it, so that it will show up eventually, but we had a map from the Ministry of Mines. And long story short, everything's been completed except for that map, and even the water permit, from what I understand, is going to see approval. So, from my perspective, they've said they want to go out and check the coordinates, and again, at the time of COVID, we're lucky enough that they prioritized us. So, at the end of the day, I think we'll be permitted this year in short order, but, I don't want to overstate the fact that we've been thinking this now for a good while since we got our DIA. But if you do look at the companies, I think Camino started drilling last week. A new company, Pucara, got their drill permit. And we use the same person on our permits that they do. You see Kaizen's drilling. They are starting to move a little more quickly. So I'm quite hopeful. And again, it's a waiting game. But the long and short of it is, I think that South American junior stocks are more depressed than North American, and I think they're going to have their day in the sun in short order based on the amount of drilling we're seeing.
Well, if the drill bit delivers anything like what the samples and the just all the work that you've done up till now, if you deliver those kind of numbers or exceed that, I think it's going to be much higher share price in very short order. Andrew, anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Well, again, I just would impress people to understand our business model, and that is that there's 100,000 informals. We think they're mining 3 to 5 grams a day, mining 2 million ounces at surface, all visible. We've got lots of it on our ground. But the key here is that this is an underexplored orogenic belt where we have first mover advantage. We're titled. We're going to get our drill permit in short order, and there just isn't anyone else other than Windshear, which is our sister company, if you want to call it that, our equity partner, and they're going to be drilling. So there's really 2 kicks at the can. So, if you step back a bit and look at it in the context of, everybody's been very patient. We're just asking for a little more patience and the opportunity to actually deliver in terms of getting a drill intercept out of the ground.
You have an excellent share structure and a tiny market cap. Can you remind everyone where that stands?
Yeah, we're at 45 million shares outstanding. Again, the 4 principals hold a fairly large amount, and I would say there's only about 15 million in the float. So, it trades by appointment, but in a hot gold market with a hot drill intercept, we could easily turn the liquidity issue around.
I've seen you do it before. I've made money with you before, and I'm looking forward to doing it again, Andrew. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.